to commemorate his son Ishmael as an act of obedience to Allah. The euphoria that usually accompanies the preparation is simply amazing as people travel far and near back home to join their families to celebrate. The buying of livestock is one of the major activities that characterize the occasion. People from far and near usually troop to the Abu, Sakasaka, and Shishao livestock markets to buy their Eid animals. However, a visit to the Abu sheep market revealed low patronage. This is one of the biggest animal markets in the greater Tamale metropolis. Here is the Abu market where a lot of people come to buy their animals, especially on this festive occasion. Both sellers and buyers were left dumbfounded about the prices of the animals.
See, I'm just confused because last year, the things that we bought 5,000, this year 9,000, 8,000, 10,000.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Today is a holiday and a number of you are not at work. But want to understand the reason for today, the celebrations we're seeing from the Muslim community, our brothers and sisters in the Muslim community, and then also what this really means, if there's a message in there for us as a people and as a country. Sheikh Aremia Shaibu is a spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. He has legs in other areas, like a member of the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, and so many others. He's joining us in the studio, as always. Sheikh, thank you so much for making the time to be with us.
My pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum assalam. You say it like a typical Muslim.
I have a lot of colleagues who are Muslim, from Aisha to all those people, so they teach me. But it's good to have you, as always, join us. So on this day, what do I say? This is the Barka de Sanlat saying?
In fact, it's a common parlance for our greetings, seasonal greetings. It's Barka de Sallah or Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
So today too, I can say Eid Mubarak to you. Because the last time you were here, I said Eid Mubarak.
In fact, today you can say Eid Mubarak because both of them are Eids, except that one comes immediately after our 1 month fasting. And this one comes during the last month of the Muslim calendar and then within the period of Hajj.
Okay.
That one we do this. And then this one also involves the slaughtering of animals for sacrifice and so on. So that's the difference. But they are all, commonly speaking, they are Eids.
I see.
Yeah.
We'll come to the slaughtering of animals. It's essential because of what's been happening in this country. But so this is Al-Adha.
Al-Adha.
Of course, what does it mean?
That is the feast of sacrifice.
Feast of sacrifice.
Yeah, which...
So that's like our Christmas, where we...
Exactly, but this one, because of the history of it, and it needs to be clearly indicated that this celebration, this festival is commemorative.
Right.
It's commemorative. And because if you don't take care, you might now misconstrue it to mean that we are spilling blood in large volumes in order to atone for a certain sin that we have committed or a certain taboo that we've broken and so therefore through immolation or something, we are trying to wash off, the sins. The sins, or the taboos, the evil that could come to us if we don't slaughter. So we do so, and if you didn't take it, then misconstrue that even if you eat the meat, then you are eating, in fact, the source of the evil. We are doing so to reenact an episode which took place far back in history, the Prophet Abraham.
Okay.
The Prophet, at an advanced age, he was granted a son. In our rendition of that story, the son was Ishmael, which in the biblical rendition is Isaac. But because we are talking Islam, I will remain at Ishmael.
Okay.
So that first son that was granted Abraham, after he had lived for a long time, beyond 80 years of his life, he was granted a son. That son was so dear to him because he did invoke God to grant him a son. And he gave him a son. Just he gave him the son, then he also threw into the test. Offer me this son.
Yes.
in sacrifice.
I see. So
Yeah.
this story is in the Quran as
This
well?
is in the Quran.
It's in the Bible as well?
As well. The difference we have in the biblical and the Quranic rendition of the story is about the object of the sacrifice, whether it is Ishmael or is Isaac. But if I may even want to simplify, then I say, look, whether Isaac or Ishmael, there was a certain attempt to sacrifice. That sacrifice is the most important thing for us here.
Okay.
Exactly, in this kind of commemoration. Yeah. Now, so Abraham, when God gave him the command to sacrifice his son, he decided to subordinate his will to the supreme will of God, and so therefore to offer his son. But God saved the son. In place of the son, he brought a ram that was slaughtered. That is one side of the equation. The other equation is the son was consulted. My dear son, this is what God had asked me to do using you. Are you prepared? And unlike the son of today,
Yes. I can imagine.
so the son obediently went according to the request of his father, also in obedience and submission to God's will, that do that which God has commanded you to do. God willing, you will find me among sons that are patiently forbearing in obedience to God. So in that case, the father and the son both surrendered to the will of God. They all subordinated their will to the supreme will of God. This act of subordinating our will and choosing God's will is that which was demonstrated in an excellent level for it to remain as a tradition for us to reenact.
Right.
So in other words, every year we go back into history and pick that value and bring it into the present.
What does it mean? I mean, in the commemorative value
Yes.
of this act you do every year.
Yes.
What does it mean to the people who do it on a yearly basis? How
Great
does it
question.
impact on our lives?
Great question. It is one of the questions when I am confronted with, I seek to give an indication that we must move away from the form to the substance. Form.
To
The
the
form,
substance.
yes. The form is that you see with our eyes and our body, the cow has been slaughtered.
Yeah.
But what does it mean? Because the slaughtering, if you ask me, is a symbolic act. But for beyond any symbol, there's a meaning.
Precisely.
Precisely. So that meaning is, one, the submission, total submission to God, and the act of sacrifice. So if we yearly celebrate this, but in our lives, it's not seen, incremental improvement in our act of submission to God, then it renders the act meaningless in our lives.
Right.
Secondly, the sacrifice as a principle, as a virtue, as a value that helps society to grow on a sustainable basis. If we do this and we do not express in the smallest modicum our readiness to sacrifice for the benefit of the larger society out of love and compassion. And in modern day terms, I like to use the galamsey.
Yes.
What the galamseyers are doing, that they do not have the bit of sense of sacrifice. So they will get the money out of it. But when they get the money, let the larger community die.
So they are just looking at what they can get, regardless of how this impacts on...
Yeah. But the one who sacrifices lives for others.
You can also stretch this to some of the modern day politicians we have as well, is it not?
Exactly.
I mean, they only would engage in certain things at their own parochial interest.
You see, so that
Looking out for their own
it is like in
interest.
modern day, I describe our kind of politics as politics of profitability.
Politics of profitability. The politician is in there for the profit. they can make.
Exactly. That is why they are prepared to spend lavishly, exorbitantly, in order to win an election. Because if you are coming into power, you have not yet gone into office, and the amount that you are spending, And yet when you come, you must first of all recoup that money and then see what is in there for you to be able to get. And the manifestations are there for all to see.
Indeed.
So, but that, if you engage in a politics, if I'm speaking now to a Muslim politician, if you engage in a politics of sacrifice, see, there are two forms, and I took this one from the let me say, the former vice president of Nigeria.
Right.
The one who just left office, Osibanjo. He was talking about sacrifice. And there's the sacrifice of self and the sacrifice for self.
Sacrifice of
self
and for self.
Exactly.
Distinguish between the two.
The sacrifice for self is that you assume office and you do certain things to camouflage, externally showing a certain sacrifice, but beyond it, a certain huge profit that will be plowed back to you. But the sacrifice of self is what you lose for the betterment of the larger community. So to sacrifice is to lose, dispossess yourself of something in order that others may have it. Politicians who have already made it in life, when they come in order to do something that will lift the community, the country, the nation to another level of development, even if they lose. So they want to leave reputation. They want to leave a legacy. They can sacrifice all the trappings of power and say, even though the people like me, but the Constitution says I could not go beyond 8 years. So I give you your power.
Beyond that, we are a largely religious nation, is it not? Muslim, Christian, more Christians, and then lesser traditional groupings as well. But generally very religious.
Yeah.
But yet, the people who lead us, or who are elected to lead us, do not reflect the kind of ideals,
exactly,
the lessons, and
from
they
these,
all belong to
one of
Christians
these
or the Muslim community. You see so much corruption, greed, selfishness, and less of selflessness.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the essence of all this? If these leaders come from our society, why don't they reflect these
values and ideals? It is one of the contradictions,
right,
that as I grow in my life of religion, righteousness, I'm not perfect, but engages my attention. So even look at myself and say, look, what are the contradictions in my life? As I proclaim to be somebody who is a faithful Muslim, what are those contradictions? I also observe such contradictions in the life of my co-religionists.
That's a very, very important point.
That the word greed, that
in there,
the greedy person,
it's actually where the concern is. And I know that this is something that is going to be engaging a lot of minds going forward as well, because we're just getting into the electioneering period, and they'll be coming to your mosques as well for votes. Sheikh Arimi Shaibu, thank you so much for making the time to be with us here on a holiday such as this. And happy Eid to you. Sheikh Arimi Shaibu is the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. On behalf of the rest of the team, we thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow. I am Alfred Akanse. Have a good night.